Hey, how's it going, everybody? And thanks for joining me on another episode of Straight Jacket White Rabbit. I'll be your host as usual. Today we're going to be talking about werewolves, lycanthropy, and, the past, the history, the present, pretty much everything. I love talking about werewolves, guys. This is one of my most favorite topics up there with ghosts. Just the power of them. I mean, the ability to go from human to animal. There's so many good, just awesome things that these creatures are able to do. And we're going to kind of talk about where they went, why they're not around as prevalent as they used to be, and, what sightings still exist. Where did they come from originally? All of this. We're going to deep dive into this a little bit here. And so let's get it started. The first thing I want to say is that the earliest surviving example of a werewolf depiction that's found in history is actually found in the Epic of Gilgamesh, guys. It's found in a poem in there. I think it was dated to around 2100 BC, so a very long time ago. In the poem, it said that a goddess had transformed this shepherd into a wolf. Now, a lot of people will distinguish shape-shifting abilities to a wolf into, that's not a true werewolf. I don't necessarily believe that's true. I do believe there is a difference between shapeshifters and werewolves. But I believe the lycanthropy gene is something that's got to be in both people. That's just my personal beliefs. I believe that the people who are like the skinwalkers of, the Great Plains and Western United States, famous for their ability to turn into wolves and other predatory creatures. I believe these people have a latent lycanthropy gene. And when I say lycanthropy, I don't mean the modern day gene that has been, I'm going to call it watered down through genetics. I'm talking about the original genes for the actual disease of lycanthropy. A lot of people don't realize this. In Greek mythology, King Lycon was actually turned into a wolf creature by Zeus, which was believed to be one of the beginnings of the word, it's the root word for lycanthropy is where they get that from, was from King Lycon. Anyways, he turned him into a wolf. I mean, one of the gods came down and actually turned this man into a wolf/human. And it says that he turned him into a wolf. But when you look at depictions of art of this story, which we only have a couple of examples that have survived through history, unfortunately. But the interesting thing is they don't show him as just a wolf. They show him as a wolf on two legs. So the fact is that looks a lot more like Zeus turned him into a werewolf than a wolf to me. Now, there's been tons of stories throughout the year, you guys, of werewolves going from every part of the world, from, Eastern Europe to Asia, to Africa, to Americas, South America, North America. Pretty much everywhere's got some kind of a story about people turning into giant dogs or wolves on two legs. I don't think that this is just some kind of random coincidence that people keep brushing it off as. You guys, like I said, one of the earliest examples was in the actual Epic of Gilgamesh, you guys. I mean, this stuff goes way far back into our history. There were gypsies back, I know it was early AD. I don't know the year. I'm not going to say I do. But when the gypsy culture really hit hard in places like Romania and things, there were gypsies who actually claimed to have the power to turn people into werewolves or lycanthropy victims. Now, whether they actually gave these people a disease or the gene, maybe they had something that they were able to quote unquote poison these people with. I don't know how exactly it works. Could just be magic, you guys. I do believe in magic. So, I mean, I can't get into detail and speak on things I don't know. All I can do is make educated guesses. And I do believe it's a gene. I believe lycanthropy is a gene that certain people have, whether it's latent or, buried deep within you or not. That's one thing. But I do believe that all people have a lycanthropy gene who are in these line of lineage from certain other people. These family lineages carried this down from generation to generation, and they passed it on through males in their family as well as females. Guys, there's not just accounts of male werewolves, there are accounts of famous female werewolves. Now, granted, it is not as prevalent as men, but there are various stories, especially going back into medieval London, things like that, medieval Romania, of women who were bitten by wolves and then disappeared into the woods as a wolf. Now, one of the main stories that I really wanted to get into on this, hold on one second, there we go. So, Michigan has a werewolf story, you guys. Michigan, United States, has a werewolf story called the Dog Man. For those of you who have not heard it, it's a cute name for this, but it's called the Dog Man. If you haven't heard of it, look it up, do a little bit of research on it. It's a great little story to read into. Now, reports of the Dog Man go back quite a long ways. I believe it was 1887 when the story came out. That's the first documented claim of the Dog Man. Now, the first documented claim of the Dog Man was an attack on several lumberjacks who were clearing timber at the time in Michigan. And they all claimed that they were attacked and had to fend off a giant wolf who, at one point during the attack, rose up on two legs to attack these people. Seems kind of shady. Wolves don't generally fight on two legs. Now, moving forward from that first one in 1887, we got a second attack almost in the exact same place, a mile away. A mile away in 1938, a man named Robert Fortney claims that he was attacked by a pack of wild dogs that were being led by one oddly large, extremely large, wolf-looking creature. Now, Robert Fortney says he was trying to fight off these dogs, and all of a sudden, this man-wolf hybrid, whatever you want to call it, stands up on its back legs, seems to growl, howl, bark, whatever you want to call it, an order to the other wolves or the other wild dogs who stopped attacking Fortney. Fortney was able to get up, get on his feet, and get out of there to be able to recount his story. Now, he had visible bite marks and various other attack defensive wounds when he went into town to report his story. This is in 1938. The man needed multiple sets of stitches. He had been bitten multiple times on his legs, on his hands, on his arms by these wild dogs or wolves, whatever they were. We didn't actually have an accurate account if they were wolves or not, but they are mentioned as wild dogs. Now, the creature he said he saw when it stood up fully, he said it was thought to be between, he thought it to be somewhere between 7 and 9 feet tall. You guys, I'm a big dude, okay? I am 6'7", almost 6'8". And when I stand up, I'm a big, imposing guy. If some kind of wolf man stood up next to me at 7, 8, 9 feet tall, I would probably lose bodily control of my bathroom functions, if you know what I mean. Okay, I mean, that's a monster of an animal. That's not literally just a monster. That is a monster of an animal. And you're talking about something that big. You're talking about something that's got a lot of advantages as far as strength's going to go. Now, before we get into some of the more recent attacks, which are actually kind of interesting here in Michigan, I want to go back for a little bit to something that I'm not necessarily sure that a lot of people count as a werewolf, which I believe it was. I believe it was one of the most underreported werewolf encounters in the world today, you guys. And I mean today, like worldwide, because this wolf creature, which I'm sorry, I honestly do believe is a werewolf. I'm going to call it a werewolf. This werewolf not only killed people verifiably, but it's got a big body count, guys. Not only does it have a body count, it's got over 30 people who were witnessed and injured after being attacked by this thing. So here we go. This is what I'm about to tell you is the story of the beast known as Jet du Vent. Jet du Vent is a town in France. It was a rural town area, province, whatever you want to call it, in France. And the beast of Jet du Vent is a giant wolf-like creature that attacked. Sometimes, here's the thing, it attacked many people, and its body count is said to range anywhere from 70 to 120 people, with over 30 people being injured by bites, scratches, and other marks. This thing's got a higher body count than most people who fought in wars, guys. Okay, I mean, this is incredible, but here's the part that makes me cry werewolf. Not only was this an ungodly sized wolf, if it was a wolf, you guys, they were saying that this thing stood up to be the size of a large calf or a small horse. That's unheard of for wolves. Even large wolves right now are not that big, guys. I've seen wild wolves. But this thing was huge. I mean, it was absolutely enormous. And not all of the accounts say this, but a large number, over 20 of the accounts of this beast, said that when it was attacking the person it was going after, that it rose up onto two legs, becoming as tall as the tallest knight. It was big, guys. It was very big, and it rose up on two legs. Now, I'm sorry, but I'm not saying a wolf can't jump at you or put its front paws on you. That's not what we're talking about. This thing wasn't leaning on somebody. It stood up on 2 feet while continuously to attack the person it was attacking. This is multiple witnesses. Now, not all of the reports said that it stood up. However, enough of them did. You have to remember how worrisome this beast really was for people, okay? King Louis the 15th, I think it was the 15th. Yeah, King Louis the 15th actually sent out hordes of hunters and bounty men and others from his town with the notion of getting paid a king's ransom, basically, for killing this creature. They hunted it for months. They never came across it. They never found it. Now, eventually, it's not, this was a couple years down the road because this thing was happening between 1764 and 1767. Eventually, in 1767, the beast was believed to have been killed because the man who brought forth the body had brought forth a very large wolf. Now, many people who had been attacked by the beast said that the man did not kill the creature, that the animal that he caught, although big and a wolf, was not the creature they claimed to have seen. So, did the beast get killed, or is the beast still walking around out there trying to find his next victim? Or his ancestors. Lycanthropy is spread through DNA, guys. It's an inherited trait. So is there still a chance that this person's family lineage continued? Did the beast disappear because he went back into human form? Or did the beast disappear because this man killed it and turned it in for the reward? We don't really know. We can't ever be 100% sure that the beast killed was the beast of Jet du Vent. But it's an interesting story to look into because there are accounts from that time period of people who recounted to public figures and passers-by of the town that there was still a dangerous creature on the loose. And when confronted with the fact that, I thought the creature had been killed, they had told their side of the story, which is the beast that they saw paraded through the city or the town, was not the beast they saw when it was attacking them. Even some people claimed that the coloring of the beast was wrong. The fur pattern had a very specific pattern to it. It had like a reddish brown. It had a black streak down the back side of it. So like a black line of fur down the back of it. And this rather large wolf that was killed did not fit these characteristic traits. So maybe the beast is still out there. Coming back to Michigan, guys, with the Dogman. And this is another problem we have with cryptids. There are too many people giving too many cryptids too many names. If it's a werewolf, if it looks like a wolf, talks like a wolf, and walks like a wolf, it's a wolf. You know, quit giving them names like Dogman. We don't need extra names. You have the same thing they do with Bigfoot. It drives me bonkers. Skunk ape. It's not skunk ape. It's a Bigfoot, okay? It's not a Dogman. It's a Bigfoot. Or a Bigfoot, a werewolf. Sorry about that. But yeah, no. Anyways, back to Michigan, you guys. There are still reports in the part of Michigan that these have been seen. There are still reports today, you guys, of people seeing the Dogman, usually in heavily forested areas or farm areas, sometimes crossing highways, but the creature has been seen. Now, a few years ago, a truck driver, I don't have his name, I could get it, I honestly probably should have before the show, I kind of forgot, so do forgive me. There was a truck driver who claimed to have not only shot Dogman, but he claims to have killed it. And this is where the story takes a wild turn, you guys. This truck driver claims that this thing started chasing after him. He gets into his truck and he's trying to pull his truck away on the road. Now, as he's pulling his truck away, he said that this monster was pacing his truck at like 20 some odd miles an hour still as it's getting up to speed. He says that the Dogman was tall enough, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen a semi-truck, okay, they're not tiny, they're decent size. But he said the creature that he shot was large enough that while it was running next to the cab window of his semi, he had the time to take out his gun and shoot directly across from him through the passenger window at this thing's face. That would easily put this creature at 9 feet tall. Okay, that is and you know, I wasn't there. Maybe the creature jumped up. For those of you who haven't seen big rigs before, there's steps and stuff to get into those things. Maybe it wasn't really running. Maybe it was standing on the side of his truck just trying to get in. He assumed, I'm thinking, because it was facing this way that it was running, or maybe he saw it running. I wasn't there, I don't know. But he says it was running next to his truck, pacing it at 20 miles an hour like nothing, looking in the window with this red eyes. Well, they called him red amber, I believe. And it freaked him out. So he grabbed his loaded pistol in the cab of his truck and he shot this thing and he watched it fall and stumble and roll on the ground. Now, he goes on to tell his story that later on, he was approached by members of the government. I don't remember if he said CIA or DOD or what three-letter agency it was, but he was approached by our government, who, in his words, said that he had taken down an asset of theirs, that he had murdered an asset of that agency, that he was not to talk about it anymore, that he was not to do any more interviews, and according to himself, he's seen people following him around town to this day. He still has weird sounds on the phone when he gets phone calls from his house. He believes his phones are tapped. Now, I have no way of verifying this man's story, you guys. I kind of have to just listen to his story and take it at face value. If he is legitimately convinced that what he saw that night was Dogman, and he believes he shot and killed it, That alone is just a sensational story. So here's my problem with adding the extra piece. Why add something that makes you sound, quite frankly, I'm going to say it, it makes you sound more out there to the normal person? You know, people like me and my friends and my group of people we hang out with, we're a little more open-minded. We can look at things and be like, oh, okay. But to the normal person, that's going to make you sound batshit crazy. I'm sorry, pardon my French, but it is. You're going to tell them, first of all, you shot a giant werewolf, but then you're going to tell them the government came and took the body away and threatened you? That sounds kind of crazy. If you're going to make up a lie, I don't think you'd make up one that was more fantastical after you killed the werewolf. So it kind of makes me want to believe his story. Here's the other thing. A lot of people have noticed that we still get random sightings of werewolves and skinwalkers and these people who can turn to animals. But not nearly to the degree we used to. And I agree, a lot of it's because of the watering down of the gene that causes this, which it's not an active gene in a lot of people. They don't know they have it. They don't know how to activate it. They don't know how to use the ability. It's been lost to us. I'm starting to think, you guys, that our government might have some kind of a hold in this situation as far as information goes. Our government has done a lot of weird things about classifying documents and things, but here's the thing. When contacted, every agency that you can possibly think to contact about this stuff, you can ask these, go send a FOIA request in about this incident, and you'll not get back a response that there was no incident, but that the documents are classified or the documents have been lost. They do this a lot, and I'm starting to think that maybe our government is using these cryptid animals or these cryptid beings or people with special abilities like this. And I mean, think about it. How unstoppable is a force like that if you can learn to control it? If our government can learn to control somebody with lycanthropy, somebody who is a shapeshifter, a skinwalker, that's got unlimited potential. But there's so many things about werewolves in our history, you guys. A lot of people think werewolves and they think bad B movies from the 50s and 60s. And it's just not the case. Our history as a species, you guys, is littered with stories of men, women, some children, turning into wolves. Now, are there stories about people turning into other animals? Absolutely, but that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about lycanthropy, the werewolf gene. And yes, there is a version of it now that just makes people hairy all over. This is not what we're talking about. That, I honestly believed, was a gene that was introduced into the population to downplay the actual people who had real lycanthropy. I believe that is a gene of lycanthropy that cannot be activated. It can't actually let you transform all the way, which is why it's just the absurd hair growth. I believe that there are people out there who do still have the original genes of lycanthropy who can shapeshift on command. Do I believe in the whole full moon and, you have to be under a full moon to transform or all this other stuff? No. But I do believe the difference between a lycanthropy victim, somebody who has the disease and shifts, versus a werewolf. Okay. People who have lycanthropy are, the reason they're different as far as in my mind goes, is people with lycanthropy and shapeshifters and all these people do it as a choice. They physically change when they decide to. Werewolves, historically, you guys, have been unable to control their change. They change, depending on the legend, they change during lunar cycles when they can't control it. They change when they get angry and they can't control it. There's a lot of different things that set off the gene as far as historical things go. But there is a difference because one can do it on command and one cannot. But I do believe they are the same affliction. They've just been changed, I guess, over time is the word. So they've just been changed over time. One group has stayed a little more pure and in control. The other group, not so much, and they change basically when their body tells them to. Now, that being said, are all skinwalkers werewolves? No, I don't necessarily believe that. But like I said, I do believe they hold at least one of these genes for this lycanthropy. Be it the normal gene from back in the Greeks' days, that was the one that's the purebred lycanthropy genes, or be it the werewolf genes where they don't control it. Although shapeshifter lore says that they can control when they turn, so that would lean you towards lycanthropy. I do believe a lot of these people just have the ability to shapeshift. I do believe that shapeshifters are not all lycans. I do believe some of them are and have been misidentified. They're not skinwalkers at that point. They're just lycans. If the only animal you can turn into is a wolf, you're not a shapeshifter. You're not a skinwalker. You're a lycan. Skinwalkers have been told to turn into cougars, wolves, birds, all manner of animals. Lycanthropy can't do that. You don't turn into a rabbit one day and then a wolf the next. You turn into a wolf or a wolf-human hybrid, something in the mix. Skinwalkers have been able to turn themselves into many different animals. So there is a distinct difference. But for those of you who've not done any reading on the subject, look into the Beast of Gadaval. It's spelled Gevaudan, I believe. It's a great read. It's a good story. It's entertaining. Also, The Dog Man from Michigan, you guys. If you guys haven't read that, please totally look into it. There are examples of this all over North America. North Carolina's got werewolf stories going back at least 180 years. They're not as widespread as the Bigfoot stories. They're not worldwide. Bigfoot is by far better known and better talked about and more talked about. But there are areas of the world where these are a lot more prominent. The sightings of werewolves are a lot more prominent than the sightings of Bigfoot. These giant things with the head of a wolf, the torso of a man, have been cited for a long time. And like I said, it's not just here, it's not just in Eastern Europe. There are legends of this going around in like the Zhangtai province of China. There's stories about stuff like this all the way down into North Korea and South Korea. There is, literally pretty much anywhere that's not a frozen Arctic tundra. And I can't even say that because there are parts of Alaska that are fairly frozen that have stories of people who can shapeshift into wolves. Almost every Native American culture, you guys, believes in the ability to change your shape, whether or not it was only a special person that could do it or whatever, but they believed that people could do it. So, interesting topic, I thought, for the day, you guys. Let me know what you think about werewolves in the comment, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another awesome video. In the meantime, stay safe, keep an open mind, and look out. You never know what's behind you in the woods. Take it easy. This is Straight Jacket White Rabbit signing off.